Hey y'all, I'm Jill with Whispering Willow Farm and welcome back. I'm in my greenhouse today doing a really fun task. I am taking dahlia cuttings to multiply my stock. Now I actually pre-sprout my dahlias every year, but in years past I've done it just to make sure that the most viable plants end up in the field because we are on a very small scale. So we are on a little over 4 acres in central Arkansas. However, the space that we have designated to grow food and flowers is very limited. Less than an acre, so we have to be really creative. So I like to go ahead and put my tubers when I get them in soil and wake them up, and essentially you guys can see here they sprout, so I know that this is a very viable plant. However, this year I am wanting to multiply my plants without having to spend a lot of money. So I absolutely love growing dahlias, but as they have become more popular, they have become more expensive. So we have been able to save our tubers for the last few years, and as we keep building out that stock, we keep replanting them. But this year I've also decided to make an investment, and I have bought a couple hundred tubers from a farmer in Washington. Well, tubers range anywhere from $10 to mid-30s depending on the variety and how rare it is. So I knew to multiply my stock and not break the bank, I needed to be creative. So this year we decided to take cuttings, and essentially what we're doing is we are rooting cuttings to make an additional dahlia plant for free. So I'm going to walk with you guys through what this looks like. So first of all, you take your regular dahlia. This is what it looks like, your tuber. They might vary in sizes. We have put them in these big 4 or 5 inch pots with soil. You do want to make sure that the neck is sticking out. That makes it really important and easy when you get ready to take cuttings from them. And then they sprout. And then when they sprout like this, we're actually going to take this and root it. And your mother tuber, which is that first tuber you started with, can actually produce 5 to 7 different cuttings. Now, I will not be taking 5 to 7 cuttings off of these because I do not have space to be able to take 5 or 7 different cuttings off of these. But they say around that 5 to 7 mark, it really starts to affect the production of your original mother tuber. So they recommend don't take more than that. But in my case, I'm probably going to be taking 2 cuttings. That's enough to build out my stock. Now, the awesome thing about taking cuttings from an original mother tuber is that it will produce tubers. So when it comes to dahlias, there's dahlia tubers, there's dahlia seeds. I do not grow dahlia seeds because it's not going to be true to that parent plant, and it's not going to produce a tuber. Versus if you have a mother tuber and you take a cutting from that mother tuber, this will then produce a cluster of tubers. While it will not produce probably as many tubers as the original, it will still produce tubers that I can then build my stock with, replant the next year, and sell. So it's really great because you're guaranteeing that this is going to be true to this plant, which is really important when you think about selling your dahlia tubers, which is what we will be doing here on our farm. So I'm going to share with you guys just how simple and easy this is. And also just a little quick tip, if you're thinking about turning profit on your farm, while dahlias are a little bit of an investment, I cannot recommend this enough, and here's why. Because this one plant can produce you income in so many different ways, all right? So you, let's say, make your initial investment and you buy a dahlia tuber and you sprout it, right? And you take the cutting. You can then root the cuttings and sell these for a premium. So you can sell these. You can then harvest off of the blooms and sell those throughout the appropriate season. And then when the frost comes and kills them off, you can take extra stock that you have and sell the tubers. So this is one investment where you can make income several different ways from. I love that. We're selling dahlias wholesale, retail. We plan on rooting some and selling the plants this year to offset some of our costs along with the blooms. And then in the spring, we'll have tubers to sell as well. So for me, it's kind of a no-brainer. It makes a lot of sense. If you want to take one of your dahlia plants and take the cuttings, let me tell you what you're going to need. One, you're going to need some sort of way to label. This is really important if you're wanting to make sure just be organized, get a marker, Sharpie, whether you're using tape on your trays or some sort of labeler like this, just make sure you're labeling properly. You also do want some sort of razor blade or sharp knife. I do not recommend pruners or scissors. You want a clean cut on this. I'm going to share that in a minute. So I've just got a box blade here. And then I am using a rooting hormone. So I have tried to take cuttings before without using the rooting hormone, and I did not have a lot of success. So for me, this is worth it. I'm using a Clonex rooting gel. This brand was recommended in the Discovering Dahlia's book from Floret. So I jumped on it, bought a 2-pack. It'll be more than enough to last me this whole season. So that is also important. And then you're going to need some sort of container to put them into. So a lot of people will do 72 cell trays and just line them up. I'm actually doing these knowing that I need a little bit of time before they're ready to go into the field. So I opted to do my 2.5-inch pots from Bootstrap Farmer just to buy me a little bit more time. And also another quick tip, do not do this on a hot day. If your little cutting wilts, it's going to be really hard for it to rebound and bounce back from this. So if you're doing this in the winter time and you're just trying to have early stock to sell for the spring, you can do this in your house under grow lights. For me, we are in, towards the end of April here, so I have been stalking my weather. It is overcast here. It is dipping down in the low 60s all week. It's going to be cloudy all throughout the weekend. So I knew that this was my window to be able to do this and not have any issues with them getting too hot. But just make sure that you are moistening the soil beforehand. You don't want to keep it saturated, but you definitely want to keep it moist, especially if it's hotter. And if you are deciding to do this later in the spring, maybe into the summer, you're planting your dahlias later, maybe consider taking your cuttings inside under grow lights just to ensure you get the best results. So here we go. Now I'm going to share with you how easy this is. I have some that are a little too big, but I would say this size or even smaller is kind of ideal. You want them to have 2 sets of leaves on. That's when you can, have really great success. I am going to be taking and cleaning off a lot of this. This size right here, I'm actually going to wait because it's got 1 set of good leaves, but not another set. All right, so here I have my 2.5-inch pot I'm using. I'm actually taking my Sharpie and gonna go ahead and make a nice indentation. You don't wanna do this with the plant itself, especially if you're using a rooting hormone, because you will get dirt all on that and it won't actually connect. So I'm making a pretty deep hole here. And then what I'm gonna do is take my box blade, and you can see off the neck of the tuber here where that is. I just want to do a clean cut right down here so that this will grow another one. You can see where I've taken a clean cut up here. Important thing is to make sure you're not damaging the tuber. And I have just cut this off. Guys can also see that it was a pretty clean cut to the tuber. So now this will go back and it will just start to grow another one. So then what we are doing from here is just removing all of these bottom leaves. We do not need them. It's going to take energy away from the plant trying to develop roots. So we're actually going to take quite a bit off here. I've even pinched this one off. So here is what we are left with, just 2 little small stems. All right, so we want to make sure that the bottom's clean. You can see I've removed all the foliage here. When you're making your indentation in whatever container you're using, just make sure it's deep enough to be able to go to this set of leaves. Now we're going to open up our rooting hormone. I don't move this out of anything. I literally just dip it in. You're wanting to just dip the bottom. You guys can see here. Got it nice and dipped. And then straight into here it goes. Just pushing soil up around it. Now I'm going to take and put a tag in it. And here we have our dahlia cutting. So now now it is literally a rinse and repeat process. Now at this stage, it's gonna take a little bit for roots to actually start to develop. Our biggest challenge at this point is to make sure that our cutting is not wilting, make sure that it is moist, our soil's nice and moist but not oversaturated. All right friends, just like that, I have already started to multiply my dahlia stock for free. Granted, this is a little bit of a time investment, but it is so worth it. And then the great thing is my original mother tubers are going to go back out into the greenhouse. They are going to produce more sprouts, which I could then take more cuttings of or just decide to put them in the ground. I have about 380 dahlia tubers this year. So I will not be taking stock and cuttings from all of these because I don't have room to plant that many, but I do intend on getting these nice and established and then selling some of these starts locally. But if you guys wanted to know how to multiply your dahlia stock for free, just a little bit of time investment, maybe a couple proper tools, this is a great way to do it. Even if you're a little nervous to do this to all of your dahlias, try a couple and just test it out to see. Especially if you have some of those rare varieties that cost quite a bit. We decided to invest in some of those rare varieties this year. Some of them cost us $32 a tuber. Well, if I can keep multiplying that plant and not having to spend that much money, that's a really big win for us here on our small scale farm, especially on being profitable in the long run. So if you have any more questions, leave them down in the comments. I would love to be able to help you out. If you have done this yourself, share your success down in the comments. But thank you all for hanging out with me. I'll talk to you soon.